Hello and welcome to the new series of Taker Points. My name is Ronan Scott. Football has returned, the league is back, and so it's time for us to start talking about all the big issues that have happened. In the first episode, my special guest is GEAROID Adams, and we're going to discuss everything that's happened so far in the first two rounds. So, GEAROID, let's start with Antrim. Antrim have played two games. They opened with a win, good win, but at the weekend there, beat by Sligo by a point. What is your take on those first two games? Frustrated, disappointed, is it expected, or how do you feel about them?
I was up at the first match against Wexford up at Glenavy, and Antrim were very good that day. I thought Wexford were very poor, very open at the back, but Antrim showed really good form. Paddy Cunningham, which is the big story coming back, obviously, was back to his free-taking duties, and he scored a few from play as well. So Antrim looked very lively going forward in particular. So I was a wee bit surprised when I know going to Sligo isn't an easy task, but I was a bit surprised. Knew it would have been close, but I was a bit surprised that Antrim maybe didn't get a draw. And apparently there's a bit of controversy that when Paddy scored his last point, there was meant to be out of time, but they were beat by a point. So obviously Division 4 is a little bit different than the other divisions. You have to nearly win every game in that division to give yourself a chance to escape. So it's a bit of a setback for Lenny, but it's still within his grasp if he obviously wins the rest of his games. But a draw would have been perfect for him to set him up for the rest of the games.
Last year was really frustrating. Getting beat by Derry in the first game, and I spoke to loads of players last year, and they all said that Derry game they really felt they could have won it. Like plenty of them thought that. And this year they got started out with a good win. But the team feels like it's stronger this year. Do you think the squad is stronger this year than it is last year?
Yeah, I think like every modern county team, at Division 3 or 4, every manager says and knows there's other players who maybe don't commit for whatever reason. But this panel's stronger. It has lost big names like Matthew Fitzpatrick, and it's lost Ryan Murray. It's two of the big names from last year, big scorers, and they're massive losses. But they've brought Paddy in. Tomas McCann's back, but he's injured, and will be hopefully in by the end of January, start of February. So he'll be a massive addition to getting out of Division 4. The last time we got out of Division 4, Tomas was a major contributor to that. So when he comes back, it'll be a big bonus. But Lenny has got back a couple of good players. There's a couple of younger players coming through who are pretty good. So the panel is better, definitely. And again, just after the initial start, it's just disappointing we didn't get 2 wins in a row, or at least a draw in the Sligo game.
Is it down to scores? Is that where the X factor they need to improve this year?
Well, I think it would be great if you had brought Paddy back, Tomas fit. You could have Dermot McAleese on there. You could bring, if you had Ryan Fitz in the mix too, then you'd have a very good forward line. And there is a good forward line there, but the strength and depth mightn't be as good as it was in previous years. And what Lenny's had to do, which he probably didn't want to do in his third year, is basically not reinvent the whole team, but have to make major changes. Because the likes of Paddy McCormick, who's a smashing player from Moneyglass, he also left the panel for whatever reason it was that he decided. That's another guy who was one of the best players last year. Even against Tyrone, he did very well in the Ulster Championship. So you have these players, and this is the thing with Antrim. It was there when myself and Frank Fitzsimmons were managers. We got Antrim out of Division 4. The very next year we lost vital players in the Division 3 campaign, and we had to reinvent ourselves. So it seems to be that this reinvention year on year has its wee bit of a knock-on effect, that if you had all the players all the time, then you might be getting out of 4 and playing better football in 3, and then obviously looking to push on the Ulster Championship.
Is that an Antrim phenomenon then? That only happens there, that has to keep on reinventing, players moving in and out because of soccer or whatever?
I think it happens in every county. I think we were talking to any manager, any supporter, they'll say, like I was in Down with Eamon Burns, God rest him, for the year, and I know Eamon was meeting players from Kilcoo who are brilliant club players and who just for whatever reasons wouldn't commit to Down. Paddy Tally's brought a few of these boys back, and it's great to see likes of Jerome Johnson and Ryan Johnson, Paul Devlin back playing straight after getting beat, in an All-Ireland club final. So the thing with Antrim is that we've lost Fitzy to soccer. Fitzy played for Belfast in the off season, and there's a financial gain there to be got. And then obviously because he's that good, he was then scouted by other teams. So he's now playing for Coleraine, and it's a good move for him. It's not a good move for Antrim, and it's not a good move for St John's.
happens often, doesn't it? Bam Neeson as well. Didn't he go to the soccer as well? It seems like these guys, the money is a lure for them as well. But perhaps the more regular games and regular matches. I know Bam said he liked the fact that he was playing every week, and there's a more structured way of playing and training and stuff. Whereas Gaelic football, you could be training flat out and not playing any matches.
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it? You nearly train too much, too many times for a lack of games. Where the football, the soccer is, week on. And like Bam Neeson was St John's third highest score last year in the league and championship, and he only played a handful of games. So it just shows you the contribution he can make and he misses it. When he comes back, he's missing it. But also when it comes to some of the bigger games, when he hasn't been playing as much football as the rest of the boys, it does have an effect. So there is that lure in Belfast now. There's a lot of local soccer teams that that boys can play for in the off season. There's a lot of St John's guys in the off season actually played for Belfast Celtic who have never played soccer before. So there's these teams now that are developing within West Belfast and South Belfast and North Belfast as well, obviously. And there's that lure now, which, to be honest, wasn't as you always had your one or two boys playing soccer as well as playing Gaelic football, but it seems to be a bit more now than it used to be.
That probably leads us into, we can sideline the league stuff for the moment, just to focus on that Belfast issue, because Gaelfast happened there recently last year. It's been brought in. They want to help clubs to get the players from primary schools and then lead on to help them build them up and become stronger. Will that be able to challenge the soccer dominance in the city, or do you think Gaelfast will help at all? Or
no, definitely, I think it will, and I think they have the right man at the helm. I think Paul Donnelly is the man to lead it. He's comes in, he's very, very open to any innovations, and the thing about him is he's totally honest, and he's got the right view, and he's looking for the right thing, and that he's trying to get as many of our kids involved in Gaelic games. I don't know if I would say there's a soccer dominance. I think there's always been a soccer. There's kids who come even at St John's and they do their Gaelic football on a Saturday or their camogie, and then they may go and play on a Sunday for whatever their local soccer team is. But I think what we need to do is, especially, and I'm seen as a football man, but in St John's and even in Rathmore, the school I teach in now, there's a big onus now in developing hurling. Developing hurling in the city and football is a major objective for Paul and his team. And what I would like, for the next 5 or 6 or 7, even 10 years, is that we have a greater influx of kids coming in who are not just proficient in Gaelic games or soccer, but they're proficient in just normal movement and the ability to coordinate their movements on whatever sports activities we do. So yes, it's important for me to have them in playing Gaelic games, but we would actually like kids coming into us, boys and girls, who are able to move and able to understand the importance of being active.
How do you improve hurling in the city? One of the arguments that I hear from club players and club managers is that the clash of fixtures with hurling and football happens regularly in the county, and sometimes they don't understand why you could be playing a football match on a Friday and then you're hurling on a Sunday, and this is for dual clubs. Thinking of like Rossa and yourselves would probably have that issue.
Well, we had, there's another person that actually left out, like Stephen Beattie's a smashing footballer from Rossa, and he used to be more of a hurler, and myself and Frank brought him in a couple of years ago, and he stayed with the footballers. Now he's playing a bit of soccer, so we've got this triangular thing going on. Last year we were hit big time. Last year St John's, we're a dual club, Rossa are a dual club, there's other dual clubs there too, but St John's last year were Division 1, both football and hurling, and we played Portland in a championship game up in a hoggle, and we had to play Cushendall in an Antrim semi-final, and our match was basically the next week. It meant our hurlers didn't get the right preparation, and we honestly had 10 players who would have been playing both coats. It came to the replay, and we couldn't play Connor Johnson, who's one of our better players, because we ended up playing on a 4G surface. So this is the thing. You talk about player welfare and player burnout. That's something that needs to be ironed out from the start. It shouldn't be a debate between myself or the other, whoever the hurling manager is. It needs to be done at county level, where we're given enough rest for teams, especially for our dual players. I think our dual players need to be cherished. I think there's still room for people to play both sports. My biggest regret is, and I get a lot of stick about it in St John's, is I stopped playing hurling when I was about 19, 20. And there's all various reasons for that, but I know the true story, but I still get stuck over it, and it's something I regret, because I actually was probably, up until I made the county team when I was about 19, I was probably more of a hurling man than a footballer. And very few people remember that.
And are you going to tell us the true story?
No, that's just I'll just stick with that one.
And sure, Slaughtneil proved that you can be a dual club. You know, Slaughtneil compete at the All Ireland level in hurling and football. Perhaps the argument there is they're not getting as much competition in hurling as Antrim teams perhaps might be.
No, that is an argument, and especially like where St John's, who you're going to get Dunloy or Cushendall or one of these top teams straight away in the semi-final. And the way we have been working until this year was that we were regularly getting the semi-finals of the championships. This year, as I say, Portland came out of the blue, and they were a very young team and did very, very well. And they beat us, and they beat us well, and they were the better team. And I'd only give our hurlers then basically. They had a couple of days recovery, and they had one session before we played Cushendall in the semi-final. That match also was a draw. So now with the modern games, there's so many draws, that also has to be taken into consideration. Mm-hmm. And then sure, we had Portland and Lavyard playing 3 matches, and we had the whole thing where we had Kieran, our county chairman, calling the game before the lights went off at the dub. So we have these mad things that happen in GAA, which people from outside probably go to themselves like, what the hell is going on there,
That was one of the craziest stories last year about what we took from it on this show when we were talking about it, ourselves and Cal, was that Antrim had a smashing championship that year that was so good, so strong. But do you think it was the same strength at the hurling side? Do you think it's still? I
think definitely when you get to that top 4 level, and I go to watch all the St John's matches, it's tremendous. The hurling championship's tremendous. It's brilliant, especially when you're up in Dunloy and Ballycastle playing those matches. You couldn't beat it. It's something that needs to be pushed. Ross will hopefully come back into the frame, and all these other teams that are pushing, but. It needs to be, and I think we're going back to the Gaelfast thing. I think it needs to be done at primary school level, where we're bringing these kids through with a love for hurling and football at a young level, and camogie and ladies football. One of the biggest growing developments in Belfast at the minute would be ladies football, and it's absolutely massive. And in St John's, we struggle at times for our camogues to make numbers, but our ladies footballers are massive, and that's the same in a lot of clubs in West Belfast.
Yeah, St Paul's were successful recently. They had a great team, but took it very bad losing that that All Ireland match.
No, definitely. And like 5-6 years ago, maybe just slightly more, there only was basically St Paul's, St Gall's, and maybe Moneyglass. And now you have all the other clubs now that are playing very slowly, but they're playing catch up, where we have decent teams coming through. My daughter was part of an Antrim team that won the Ulster A under 14 ladies championship last year, which is the first time that's been done. And on playing teams like Dublin and Tyrone and teams like that, and beating them, which was great.
So perhaps we're a wee bit too male focused in the fact that we think things are in a bad way with football and hurling, but if you look at it from the women's perspective, it's going well. It's
no, definitely, yeah. And like what we've done in St John's, and I think it's a very important thing, is that our footballers stay behind for camogie, and we're trying to amalgamate that approach where it's a dual approach there. We go on the same day. You don't have kids. Every school I seem to be involved in, and every team I'm involved in, seems to be a dual school. So that's in Louis Ballymena, with serious emphasis on the 4 sports, all the GA sports. So we had to make room for the hurlers, for the footballers, for the ladies footballers, for camogie, and trying to balance that where you don't have them out 5 or 6 days a week after school, plus what they do with their clubs. And it's the same in Rathmore, it's the same as St John's. So you're just trying to make their time, where they're getting their coaching, but they're getting a lot of fundamentals as well.
Well, one of the issues that the ladies footballers would have is they never get this equal crack of the whip as the men do. They don't get the same amount of coverage, the same amount of TV, same amount of press coverage. Do you find that?
Yeah, definitely. Even this year, like I'm actually, when I leave here, I have to go and I never thought I'd ever do this, but I have to go and coach an under 16 St John's girls team football, and I'm just giving a hand, but it's one of those things you do as a follower. You go in and you give a hand, and again, I'll go up here and there'll be 25 girls training for the under 16s, there'll be another 30 girls training for the minor team. So that idea that it's actually keeping the whole spirit of the GAA alive, but the girls now, and it's in every sport, it's not just Gaelic football. Mm-hmm. You can see all these sports lifting, that female profiles are lifting, and the media is changing, and all these different, we've now got a lot of role models who are females, and that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Before we move on from Belfast and Antrim GAA, I wanted to ask you about the schools and the role that schools play in improving football, hurling, camogie, ladies football in Antrim. How important what role do they play?
you know, when I talk to teams, every time I talk, whatever team I'm talking to, and playing, you know, whatever level we're playing, I tell my pupils that your school football is the best level of football you play. So if that's A, MacRory, B, McLaren, C, Markey, or A, McGean, or Casement Hurling, you know, that's a better level that you're going to play in Antrim at the minute, and you're going to bring this back to your club. So you're bringing whatever you learn in school with good coaching and with good matches against the elite of Ulster. You're going to bring this back, and all the challenge games you play and all the teams you'll face, you know, because what happens is there's, you know, everybody knows each other in Belfast. You play, teams know each other, and they get to know each other, where you're taking these kids out of their comfort zone. So in my opinion, it's a level above, and they bring it back to their clubs and hopefully improve their clubs. Like even the St. Louis Ballymena team who won them again, there were 6 or 7 lads from Dunloy in that team. You know, here and I playing county hurling. James McNaughton was in that team, who was from Knockey, you know, so they're playing county hurling. So that was the jump. They won 5th year, they won the Kirk Cup, lower 6th, they won the Casement Cup, and then they won them again. So that was a brilliant progression that St. Louis did for them, and I think that brought them through and got them ready for the county level. In Rathmore and in Belfast, there's this idea where I'm trying to lift the profile of GAA, but I'm aware that there's other sports in the school, and we have to keep all the other sports flourishing. There's lots of basketball played, there's lots of soccer, football played, so you know, it's keeping the boys going at all levels. This year I took a senior marquee team, and we had 35 boys training from start to finish. We have 45 girls are training at the minute for under 14 ladies football. We've got camogie going, so we're just trying to lift the whole profile, because I think principals know, I think that senior teachers know that the GAA, because of the amount of training we do, and maybe there is too much, but because you create a tradition, you create a routine that they know you have to come in and work hard, and you know, we do early morning sessions, we do sessions at lunchtime, we do, you know, strength and conditioning sessions. You're prepping them for later on. There was actually an interesting article with Lenny Harbinson talking about the need to get more Antrim schools and Belfast schools involved in playing MacRory. And as somebody that's been my major push for years, it's easier said than done. And what we might need to do, and I'm probably going back on what I've told other people privately, because I'm against amalgamations, but all these other schools, other counties are amalgamating at times to get teams to play at a higher level. So when it happens in Derry, where there's some schools that actually amalgamate with other schools to play at a higher level, and in Antrim, we're the weakest county. You know, Belfast has that much going on, and sometimes there isn't a directive towards GAA. But if maybe in Belfast or in Antrim, we could get an amalgamation of schools to go and play MacRory, maybe. You know, you could pick St. Louis Ballymena, you could pick Rathmore, you could pick some Malachy's, you could pick LaSalle, you could pick some Mary's, and you know, depending on where you're playing, if we're playing C, we could pick 5. You know, the likes of St. Mary's could pick 6 or 7, and we pick a panel of 30, and we go and we try and play against the best in Ulster. You know, maybe that would be a good experience for the boys. You know, to play, and yet they still play for their schools and whatever level they're at. So I've said before that amalgamations aren't great, but maybe for Antrim or for Belfast or in general it could be better.
It's a controversial thing to say, particularly with last year and the year before when Andoon played in the MacRory Cup. There was a lot of pushback from school, maybe not publicly, but I knew they weren't happy with Andoon playing in it because they just felt they had an advantage, you know.
Yeah.
And what it was more about taking care of the county team rather than the schools, so the school players were missing out.
Yeah.
That whole thing was just to help down.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, and that was a very good down team which played in that under 50 or whatever league that is. There's the Celtic Cup. The Celtic Cup, and I know a lot of the boys in St. Louis and Rathmore who would have played against that team. Like Rathmore this year had 1 county player. You know, St. Louis have 4. So there's the 2 of the bigger schools. St. Mary's would have 3 or 4. So we're not taking the best, you know, from Antrim. You're taking a wee core of Antrim players and maybe giving them a better experience. So as I said to you, I'm probably going back on what I've said to other people about it, but I'm just trying to think, and it's just what it resonated with what Lenny said to me. Is there a way to get these boys to be playing MacRory? I'm pushing my teams next year to McLaren, because I think we're good enough, and we mightn't win it, but we'll compete. So that's our aim in Rathmore. But if we could actually then, if I had a team good enough to play MacRory, we'd play. But is there another way to do it? I don't know. The whole idea of amalgamating teams is something that can be done very wishy-washy, and I'm aware of that. And I would need somebody really, really good at the centre of it. There are some amalgamations already, and it doesn't always work. It's something that, you know, as I've said before, it's something I don't always necessarily agree with. But Antrim is the weakest county at the minute. You know, we're the only team in Division 4. Belfast is going through a transition where, yes, hopefully over the next number of years we'll have growth, but that'll take a while.
Yeah. What about pushback to schools? One of the issues in other counties is that clubs aren't too happy about sending their lads off to play MacRory Cup, but this, like particularly around Christmas time, whenever St Paul's is on, they want their players to play at the St Paul's tournament, but the lads have to go play MacRory Cup.
Yeah, we could have this discussion coming. The whole idea of the GA calendar could probably take up this whole discussion. You know, and that then we're Antrim anyway. We started under 20 football, under 21 football in the middle of the campaign as well. So you've got your minor going, and a lot of these kids are still play the level up as well. So you're trying to. I remember when I started off for St Louis and we were just playing McLaren, like whatever way the season seemed to work. You know, it was before we had any success, and then all of a sudden Dunloy were hitting those minor matches and we were losing players. We had to basically just say to them, but you go with your club, and then when you come back, you know, we'll take you after the matches, because the way it was that you actually qualified quite early and the McLaren, and then you had a big break until January, February. Now they've condensed that a bit. Maybe the thing to do would be to have a good look at an overview, you know, because you don't want boys playing minor football, playing for their clubs, and we actually lost 2 players doing pre-season. You know, so they're in championship phase for their schools, yet they're training pre-season for their clubs. So where does it lie? And I'm telling them, and hopefully they're listening to me. You know, this is more important at the minute, and you bring us back to the club. But then you've got your club manager saying this, and this is more important. Your club is more important. So there's kids shouldn't have this thing. You know, like there's club players in St John's and other clubs who play all year round. You know, we're an amateur sport. We have people playing, you know, and they're getting 2 weeks rest. You know, in the year, if I'm a professional footballer, if I'm an American footballer, my season's condensed, and I know exactly when I'm playing. I know exactly what rest period I get. So something really needs to be done about the GAA calendar. There's loads of ways it needs fixed, but it would take a massive debate there. And
they've been talking about it for years, and they still can't get it right. But to conclude then, for that point, you're optimistic about the future for Antrim in terms of the schools with Gaelfast. You're happy with what Paul Donnelly's doing, and you think perhaps maybe MacRory could, or at schools level, they can look at amalgamations perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think also it can't be you know, a short phase thing. Paul Donnelly or whoever comes after Paul, it needs to be a 10-year, 20-year thing where you're constantly pushing, you know, towards these things. And we need, without me going on to, you know, we need a centre of excellence, and our centre of excellence was always Casement. Casement Park is in the middle of West Belfast, and it was always a place that I loved playing. And you'll hear this from everybody, like you'll hear this from loads of people, that it was a great place. It was all my school matches were played there, under 21 minor championships were played there. So not only even for the county, but for your club and for your school matches, it was a great place to have. You know, it's something that needs to be, well, hopefully it is being rectified at the moment.
It looks like it's very, very close, doesn't it? Like all the politicians up there are desperate to be the ones to cut the ribbon out the front of it, aren't they?
Votes, well, maybe, hopefully anyway. But no, it's definitely required. Whatever way they do it, it's definitely, you know, it's always been in my.
It's so odd that you got so used to going to Casement, like, you know, he just loved going up. I know Derry people who loved actually going to Casement, maybe more than going up to Derry because it was closer.
Oh, definitely.
You know, and you just got so used to it being there, and it was always going to be there, and the matches are great and great days, you know,
big time.
And even small crowds. It was good, you know. It's just so handy. And then when it disappears, you just totally took it for granted.
Yeah, and you have got that generation of players like who haven't played there. You know, you're like Paddy McBride, who played there when he was 19, he's now 26. You know, Ram Murray, 19, he's now 26. Fitzy never played there, you know, at county level. But it's not always that level we're thinking of. As you say, like we're looking around the county for you know, a facility to play, you know, a replay, and we've no lights except for 2 or 3 clubs. You know, you go and you watch a match at the minute, and Currigan Park is getting done up, which is great and it's brilliant. You go and watch a match, you know, if you're going in a wheelchair, you know, every club in Antrim's up a hill. Yeah. You know, obviously likes of Craig, and you can go up into their stand, things like that. But you know, it's only a small thing. You know, so again, we're behind in many ways, but hopefully over the next you know 5, 10, 15 years, we start catching up with the rest of the counties.
Well, let's move on. We have to just talk about the league, and just quickly, which Ulster teams after the first 2 rounds have impressed you the most?
Down and Donegal, because they're 100% with 2 wins and a draw each. So I think Paddy Tally will be particularly happy. You know, we'll have this idea of trying to get out of Division 3 now, obviously, to cement a top level place in the championship. So I think I'm beating Derry also. You know, would be a very good win for them. Donegal give me a bit of a hammer, and Donegal have that in their locker. So those 2 teams in particular are flying at the minute. It's early days. You know, we're two games in, and you know there's going to be a lot. I think it was Kieran McGeeney said today, these teams in Division 1 and 2, or 2 and 3 anyway, will start taking points off each other. So it's about every score counts. He actually made the point, I think, that like they've been down twice on point difference. So even if you're getting beat, it's important you don't get beat by that much. So those 2 teams in particular. Armagh, you know, went from a brilliant win the first day, and then were probably surprisingly beat yesterday by Laois. So it seems to be the rest of the teams are in a bit of limbo, you know, and I think it's Derry or obviously only have 1 point out of a potential 4, so they're at the other side of it, you know, when they probably would have been looking to push on.
Those results with the likes of Armagh not getting maybe the results we expected, is that to do with them not being just ready yet, or is it just to do with how competitive those leagues are?
I think it's a mixture of both. Armagh seem to be coming, and like, you know, and under Kieran McGeeney they do very well, and then that league match last week, their first win, they were flying, and you know, you just thought they were going to take off and keep this going, but then it just shows you the league at the minute is so up and down, but it is very tight. When I was in down there a number of years ago, and even when I was in Antrim, Division 3, you know, all the matches, like Armagh beat us by a couple of points, we lost matches by a point, we got relegated on the last day because we drew a match with Longford, so all these matches are very, very tight. So apart from Division 4, you can still survive and you can still push up, maybe losing a game or 2, which I think Armagh will do, you know, as long as you take your defeat and then push on. I think every team always has one wee defeat. There's obviously Tyrone, you know, we're beat by Monaghan, and again, I think that was Banty's second time that he's beaten Tyrone in a long and obviously illustrious career, so it just shows you. And again, Mickey Hart doesn't take defeats easy, so, and you've Kevin Madden in there, is a good friend of mine too, so they'll be working on the next match trying to get points. So, you know, it's all to play for, early days, and all the teams are still in the mix. Just to run through it then, so you reckon then the Donegal, Tyrone, Monaghan could be safe in Division 1? Yeah. Armagh might still push for promotion, and maybe Fermanagh be close? Yeah, I think those 3 teams are a different level, and also they're a different level. I think you know, you've got Tyrone, Monaghan, and obviously Donegal. Donegal on their day are again just, you know, we have obviously, we've got Dublin and we've got Kerry at the moment, and we've got these 3 teams that you're hoping will push them all the way, and they're the 3 that I think they could do it, and I think they'll end up hopefully safe in Division 1. Fermanagh had a good win where they beat Roscommon by a point, so that was a great 2 points for McManaman, so that's a good bonus for him. So, you know, these teams are still to play for it. I think Armagh, and I for some reason I have a liking for the longevity of Kieran McGeeney staying there, so I'd love to see them doing well. I'd like to see them pushing on, I'd like to see them pushing on and playing with the bigger boys to see if they would cope. Because you like to see a manager get a bit of time to I think so. Like, you know, even when myself and Frank Fitzsimmons left Antrim, you know, you could have left in a sour note, but I was saying whoever replaces us, you need to give them time. Lenny needs time, you know, you need time to develop the players that are there, and Kieran McGeeney's had time, and there has been obviously massive improvements, and he's starting to get the team round to the way that he's thinking. But again, that's a setback. It's how he reacts from it, obviously. And final word, Antrim promotion, can they do it? I think they can. I think that was a serious setback on the Sligo game. Hopefully they get Tomas McCann back as soon as they can. I think they've got good players coming back. You know, I see they took Paddy McBride off at half time, so maybe, and I was watching Paddy against Wexford and he wasn't his usual self. So I'm hoping he can lift this, because if he lifts it and the rest of them lift it, and it's good to have Paddy Cunningham back. So I hope they do. The next match is obviously imperative. If they lose the next match, they're going to be in serious trouble. But I think the rest, I'm not sure exactly who it is, but I think the rest of the matches, they've got more home matches now, which is a big advantage. Great, thanks very much for joining us. No problem. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for your time. No problem.